Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Nioh 3. I play it on the PS5, it's also available on the PC. So in Nioh 3, you play as one of the Tokugawa sons, when the castle you are at gets attacked by yokai. Once you escape the castle, you realize it's not just yokai, you're being attacked by Shingen's army. Shingen has teamed up with the yokai to bring down Tokugawa and take over. But of course there's more to the story than that, I'm just not gonna do spoilers. And I will say that unlike a lot of other Soulsborne and those style of games, there is more story here. They do deliver you the story more directly, which I actually appreciate and I do enjoy, because a lot of games like these, I forget about the story, I forget that it's even there, and it becomes all about the gameplay for me. But that being said, the story is totally adequate. It's not like a mind-shattering story by any stretch of the imagination, and it really kind of still evolved into being more about the gameplay for me. But let's move on to the audio, and the first thing I'm going to say is I started out with the English voice acting, and it was bad. It wasn't like necessarily the worst stuff I've ever heard, but it was pretty damn bad, and so are their pronunciations of Japanese names, and considering that all the characters are Japanese, it got to be really noticeable. So I switched over to the Japanese audio pretty quickly, and it made the experience far better. I've definitely heard some worse pronunciations, and I'm sure I'm far from flawless, but these were bad. But let's move on to the music, and the first thing I'm going to say is that I really enjoyed the music. I don't think it's anything that will ever be considered iconic, but I do think they did a really good job, and I really liked the way the music hit. They actually did a surprising job with some kind of spooky music here or there, though I don't know that that always fit the vibe, but then the music really kicks in during the combat, and it hypes up, and it works very well there as well. Then you've got the sound effects, which overall were really good. I did notice a couple of missing sound effects here or there, but I think the yokai sound effects, the combat sound effects, they're all very well done. Then we can move into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and as I already mentioned, it's a Souls-like Soulsborne third-person action RPG. One thing that sets Nioh 3 apart from the previous two is that it's not quite open world, but it is more open world. It's not like as huge and sprawling as you might expect from a traditional open world game, but it's not as linear. You actually do fast travel around the map if you want to, you run around. It's not gigantic, but it is a good sized map. Though I do have one complaint about that. The first really big boss, or at least what I considered the really big boss, was someone you beat at about level 12, somewhere in that range. And then the next objective that they send you on is in a zone that's meant for 36 and up, like level 36 and up. So you're woefully unprepared for that. Unless you're far better at these games than me, and I am not far better at these games than me, though I know that there are people who are. So I found myself doing more exploring and going to the different zones and taking on a lot of side missions, which I actually found myself really enjoying. And just in general, I enjoyed what you're used to from this style of game in an open world, not unlike another game that we all know. They also have a lot of gear. It's also partly like almost a looter game. You get a lot of weapons, you get a lot of armor, and you can rotate through. I found a matching set that I really liked, so I was upgrading it. But you also will level up your character, as we know. But then there's other things. There's your skills for like samurai skills, ninja skills. Specific weapons have skills. There's also a wide variety of weapons. I really found myself attached to the Odachi, but there are a lot of different weapons and they'll lead to a bunch of different play styles. You can definitely switch out your armors and do some different builds. One other thing they do, and I don't necessarily remember if they did it in the previous games, was you also have your ninja style, I guess. So you can flip between samurai and ninja basically whenever you want, and it becomes advantageous at times. I didn't find it super useful for me in like direct combat, but I would use certain ninja skills in combat and then switch back to samurai. It is a speedier class with its own weapons, its own armor, and you can really do some different stuff with that. So if you want to be super speedy, then that's kind of the way to go. You also have guardian spirits, and they will give you different abilities, and you'll go into like a super mode using them, and they will give you different like elements, different attacks. I kind of stuck with fire. I liked setting things on fire, but my ninja was like lightning based. Also, you can summon in friendlies, or you can play co-op if you want to. I would summon in friendlies for some of the bosses. I would get the hang of them, get close to beating them, and then I'd summon in a friendly to make it easier on that last attempt. But you could also summon in other players as combatants, and I liked that they didn't just automatically invade your game, which can be a pain in the ass in my opinion in some of the other games. But being able to summon them in, challenge them, get some cool gear out of it, I found that fun, and it let you see other players' playstyles and their builds. One thing I also really enjoyed was the clarity of the map and the objectives, as well as just all the other side crap that you could find. It was much easier to track down than in some other games, which I kind of enjoyed. It can be fun in those games if you're going to devote, months and months to a game, weeks and weeks, whatever. But in my case, I'm devoting a certain amount of time, and I will definitely come back to it, but it makes it a little easier for me when I'm bouncing from game to game regularly. Now let's get on to the controls, and Nioh is kind of unique in the action RPG realm. Many of them use the R1 and R2 as your attacks, whereas Nioh uses square and triangle, which I've always kind of loved. But I think the controls worked really well. I didn't have any complaints with them not responding when I needed them to, which would be hugely detrimental in a challenging game like this. But then let's move on to the graphics and visuals, and I honestly found them to be a little disappointing. I will say that I liked the character creator. I thought that was really well done. There was a lot of depth to it, which is always kind of fun, or at least for some people. I don't spend a huge amount of time in character creator, but I can appreciate it. But I will say, graphically, I just wasn't blown away by the game. I do think they really could have done a lot more to just put all the detail, make it much more realistic. It just didn't feel like it needed to be on the PS5 from a visual standpoint. Just when you're looking at it, it doesn't feel like it's a graphical powerhouse. That being said, I do like the design of the world. I like the old Japanese buildings, countryside, armor, weapons. I love all of that. I think from a visual aesthetic, it's fantastic. There were a couple of yokai that really very reminded me of enemies from another game that takes place in a very similar setting. But a lot of the other yokais I felt really set themselves apart, and they looked very unique and different. I liked the designs. I liked being able to pick out their weak points and, maybe shooting them there. I liked the different combat styles of the bosses. I liked the way your weapons look in combat, and I like the different combat styles they all lend. That's kind of gameplay and visual, because they do look different, which I appreciated. And I also liked the effects for all the different moves, whether it's the enemy's attacks or your attacks and your special moves and your, magic or whatever it is. I just think they did a really good job with all of that, and I loved how it looked overall, specifically from a design standpoint, maybe not necessarily a graphical standpoint. So to get into the wrap-up, I really enjoyed the game. I had a very good time with it. I think it's a good addition to the whole Soulsborne, Souls-like collection of games. I obviously had a few minor complaints, but nothing that really stripped away from my overall experience. And nothing that was making me feel like I wasn't having fun. This was a game where I was enjoying it from when I started to when I got here reviewing it. I would have appreciated a stronger story. I really would love a stronger story, but at the same time, a game like this can just draw me in purely by gameplay. So yeah, I don't have a problem recommending this. I thought it was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to sink more time into it. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me what you consider the best entry-level Souls-like game? And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one.